All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, and today we are going to be doing almost 12 straight hours of racing coverage here, as TORA does a GT3 only special here at Kylami. It's the 9 hours of Kylami. Each stint will be about 90 minutes long. We should have a little bit of buffer time before stint starts and after stint starts, so that way we don't have to worry about lobbies bleed into each other as aggressively. I'm going to be covering the first 4 stints without break, pretty much. Outside of the small breaks you'll get going from one to another. I'm not going to be covering stint 5, but I will be covering the final stint of the day as well. So there are a lot of interesting things that have gone on here in TORA over the last few days. A lot of big controversies. When the race settles down a bit, we'll kind of settle down, talk about those for a bit. But for our first stint here, we're going to see everyone get lined up on the grid and then take the long way around. Another thing to consider today is that it is a 90-minute stint, but the clock starts as soon as everyone loads onto the circuit. As far as I know, there is not a way to manually order the grid, so that could end up having a small knock-on effect. If we still don't have a way to manually order the grid, part of that 90 minutes is going to be spent trying to line the field up. The good news is this is a relatively long circuit. If you're going to be just going one after another off the line, it shouldn't take too long to get everyone in order, but that could still have a small but significant impact. Other thing as well, the first stint, as you spend the entire first lap going at pace speed, this means that the first stint will usually be the smallest distance of them all. As I'm covering the C lobby, we're not really anticipating anyone here going to be doing min-maxing for the overall stint end distances. More than anything else, we're just looking at people who are going to be going for stint victories. Drivers trying to win stints are probably going to be a little bit more important than drivers just trying to min-max distance. However, winning a stint will automatically put you ahead of everyone else in this lobby here, so there will be some level of crossover, but I do think we'll see a little bit more actual racing and fighting for position here than just drivers hanging out nose to tail for 45-50 minutes straight, only broken up by pit stops. Speaking of pit stops, TORA typically has restrictions based on how many pit stops you are able to do at a minimum. In today's race, every driver is required to make 2 pit stops today. So real quickly, let's go ahead and look at the driver list. I don't believe everyone is here yet, but we do have the majority of the drivers here at this point. This here is HYR Skyline, as they are representing the BMW M6. AK4X Mikun is running the McLaren 720S. They are also the lobby host, and I do want to say thank you for Mikun for going out of the way to making sure I was able to get into the lobby today. NWR Stewie is representing the Audi R8 today, so keep an eye on that vivid black design. Moogsy23 is running the Aston Martin Vantage. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe we may see SFM Darkster stepping into that car a little bit later today. We'll keep an eye on that later to see if that's actually the case. C1 Kalashki in 54 is running that maroon red number 69. Audi has a very, very interesting paint. It's very minimalistic, but I just never see someone go with something maroon like that, so I'll definitely try and keep an eye on them today. LMP Bilbo is running the BMW M6 today in the LMP team. LMP Nando, another LMP team, is going to be running a Aston Martin, and that's one of the cars that has a lot of controversy going into it. We'll be keeping an eye on them today. Scarlatti, a veteran and showing up in these broadcasts that I do for TORA. I think every single TORA stream I've ever done, I've seen Scarlatti in at least one stint. They're representing the Porsche 911 GT3, the number 742. X3 Yart Ratasa is running the McLaren 720S. It's been over a year since I've last seen X3 Yart in a race. Seen him win stints in the lower lobbies. Now he's in the C lobby out of a 5-lobby system, so he's going to be trying to punch a little bit above his normal weight class compared to before. P1 Arcana is representing the Acura. For those of us who follow the ISC series, you're aware that the Acura is probably the most dominant car in that league. Now, granted, in that league, the Acura has a few extra buffs compared to this one here, but generally speaking, the Acura has a ridiculous amount of acceleration ability and the ability to turn lanes quickly on acceleration, meaning that you can get through traffic very quickly. So keep an eye on the Acura. They could be incredibly fast sleeper cars today. LMP TVR is representing the Cadillac, the number 44 Cadillac in that gold and white design. Maybe Racing, who has been hosting their own IFEA Mustang Challenge series. I've actually had the fortune to run with Maybe Racing the last 3 weeks. They've shown a lot of speed. They're representing IFEA, and the number, I believe that is the number 31. We'll expect to see them share that ride with Scored Buffalo as the day goes on. FTC Sakura is representing McLaren in the number 17. So a blue, a kind of a fading out blue and white machine here. Minimalistic, but very, very striking to look at. Les Zeta is representing Audi as well. I can't read that number from here, but keep an eye. LMP Pinky was the one who made that design. I'll try to get a better look at that once we launch to the circuit. Koenigsegg R is going to represent the Lexus manufacturer today. Will be running in the number 6 car. AWR Richard is going to be in the number 98 Bentley. So a very, very large variety of manufacturers getting represented today. Hilfiger is going to be in the Audi number 34. I don't think it's 34. I think it's supposed to be 34 something, but I can't see the final name of the final number there. But they're going to be representing the Audi. A very schizophrenic design, but we'll definitely be able to tell that one apart. ZR Benito is representing the Mercedes AMG GT3 today. Apparently, they've got the number 1. So, very interested to see somebody actually commit to running the number 1. Normally, those numbers are restricted. AR Era 404 is representing the Acura NSX as well, our second Acura car. Keep an eye on them. I don't think I have the proper paint scheme loaded in for them, but I'm sure it will be loaded once we get onto the circuit. And that would be our 19 drivers that we are looking for or looking at in today's race here. There may still be a few more that we have to wait to have show up. But as far as I understand, most of the lobbies will be looking at about 19 to 21 drivers in today's event, at least at the start. We do anticipate there will be some level of drop-off as the event goes on, as there normally is, and I wouldn't be surprised if closer to the end and the final stint, we could be looking at only 15 GT3 cars in our lobby today. Real quickly, giving everyone an idea of what the race setup is going to be looking like here. Lexus seems to be the only car that may have a handicap in this lobby. Everyone else seems to be running without the handicap. The addition of having the success spouse that you can put into the car has significantly helped make balancing a bit easier for TORA, I imagine. All right. Looking here at the driver list, Skyline has not readied up yet. Neither has Maybe Racing. But we have 19 drivers here ready to go. Significant spread in cars. And here's one entry that I'm going to be really scared for. LMP TVR is in the Cadillac. They are the only Cadillac in today's event. One of the big downsides of the Cadillac is that they are going to have a car that has a significant speed advantage, but getting to that speed is going to be very hard. Kylami is a very acceleration-focused circuit. You do have one gigantic front straightaway and then another respectable back straightaway. But the majority of the circuit is all about acceleration and then rushing into relatively slow speed corners. And on top of that, cars with a significant aerodynamic advantage may not have as much of an advantage here. Kylami is a circuit that really only has two really hardcore downforce focused corners. You have a sweeping, slowly decelerating right-hander, that makes up turn 4, and then you have a run downhill into a blind left-hander. Those two corners you'll need good downforce on, but the rest of the corners here are all very much mechanical grip focus, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that and see how that ends up turning out. All right, well, while we wait for the event to start, we'll go ahead and run over one of the big controversies that are on everyone's mind. After qualifying ended on Thursday, there was a significant last-minute change to the BOP made to a single car. That car, I'll show you real quickly which car it was, if you are not familiar with it. That car was this one here. The Aston Martin was deemed to have too good of a setup. It was not caught by TORA officials. It was actually apparently anonymously submitted to TORA officials after qualifying ended. So with only about 48 hours, well, no, less than 48 hours, honestly closer to 34 hours before the first stint, the Aston Martin got a significant nerf to its front tire width and also got weight added to it in form of heavier rims. Several different teams pulled their cars in protest, but we do still have an Aston Martin performing here, so we'll get to see how their actual performance is going to look like. As we are loading onto the circuit now, come on, Forza, I believe in you. All right. I have a 90-minute timer going now. And I'll have to stop and delete it because apparently somebody lagged out just as the lobby loaded in. So that will cause some level of frustration here. You'll have to try again. Apparently there was some sort of reason I was invited into a certain Discord call, but that's kind of silly because I'm in the middle of broadcasting. I'm just doing some final checks here. It does look like whoever dropped out, they are gone for good. they're having a lot of issue getting back in here, it would appear. In fact, now we've lost 2 people at that. I'm not sure what's going on there. The good news is this is a 9-hour enduro, not a 12-hour. We do have a little bit more breathing room. Between the stints, we have about 30 minutes that we can effectively burn and still get the minimum amount of racing in. All right, and that is Les Zeta, who has been able to get back in. That's not the car they're going to be racing. That car wouldn't be very competitive here. And then AWR Richard has also gotten back in. So I imagine once they're back into their proper cars, we should be able to get underway without too much issue. They'll just have to double check and make sure that their cars are kept in the proper power handicap. If they're in the Lexus, they actually need to run power handicap again. Right now, Koenigsegg is one of the Lexuses, pretty much the only Lexus in today's event. So it looks like they may be the only exception here, as Richard is going to be running the Bentley. So once Zeta, Richard, Error all line already up, we should be able to go without too much issue here. We'll try our best to keep an eye on driver's tire wear. I've not actually driven these GT3 cars around here, but from what I understand, 2 stops means you could, in theory, run soft, not have any significant issue with tire fall off in today's event. As we are finally getting back onto the circuit. All right, time to take 2. Once we are on track, I will go ahead and start the timer up again. We're only about 14 minutes behind schedule, and we have about 30 minutes of breathing room, so we're doing a little bit better than I anticipated, honestly. All right, timer is on. Now timer is going, once the little clock is gone. Okay. So I can't look at the gaps between drivers in time. That's frustrating. Okay, well I can do that, and that saves me a little bit of room so I can run the map instead, at least. Alright, so at the head of the field, it looks like it is going to be HYR Skyline. We're going to go ahead and use the rail camera here just as everyone gets lined up. Skyline is going to be our pole sitter by the looks of it in this number 32 machine. They are going to be followed by NWR Stewie. After NWR Stewie will be Richard, who is in that Chappelle number 98 machine, followed by AR Error 404. After that will be Moogsy 23, but they are not driving the number 23, they are driving a number 24. Then behind them will be LMP Nano in the 826, followed by LMP Bilbo in the 825, followed by FTC Sakura in the 17, and Koenigsegg R in the number 6. Then it will be Hilfiger in the 346. Told you I would eventually get their number. After that will be ZR Benito. Then you will have the number 690 of X3 Art. Followed by that will be Maybe Racing in the number 31 IFEA machine. Then LMP TVR in the number 44 from GGA. After that will be AX4X Mikun, who again is also hosting this lobby. Behind them is going to be Scalarity in the number 742. I actually now that I get to see that scheme, I like it a little bit, but it's a little bit too bright for me to really appreciate it. The colors get a little bit washed out. Behind Scarlatti is P1R Arcana in the 157. After that will be C1 Kalash in 54. It does not really look as maroon, it almost looks Ferrari red under my bright-ass settings. And then at the back of the field will be LS Zeta. So that should be the entire field now lined up. So we should start rolling any moment here. All right, here's something interesting. Right off the bat, our top setter does not have a full fuel tank, and I'm curious if anyone is going to try to run a full fuel tank. You'll make your car heavier by doing so, but by running a full fuel tank, you get to shorten up your pit stop. It might not be as much of a great idea here. This is a lot of low-speed corners and acceleration focus. You'll want your car to be lighter so you can maximize the acceleration, but potentially, there may be an advantage. I don't think you'll see it here. I think it would be more likely you'd see it at a higher speed corner circuit like Spa or Daytona, but potentially you could maybe get an advantage by running a bigger fuel tank and try to save time later, especially if you think you're in a position where you can grab the draft and use the draft to salvage time that you might normally lose. So real quickly, we're going to look at our points of interest cameras. Our first one here, this is here in turn 1. As you can see, the field is finally beginning to get underway. 19 cars here. So again, assuming that my 90-minute timer is correct, we have burned not quite 5 minutes waiting for the grid to get properly ordered here. Be careful on your tires, ladies and gentlemen. Do not burn them up too aggressively. This here is one of my favorite corners at Kylami. It is a high-speed right-hander that is semi-blind. Not totally blind, but semi-blind. And we'll get to see the field run through here real quick, and then I'll change the camera again, and then we will properly focus on the leaders. That's fantastic. They're not even at full racing speed, and this angle is absolutely fantastic. I love it. I did not get to cover the IESC GT3 race here about 2 months ago, so being able to cover TORA's GT3 race will make for good. All right, well, I'm not going to be able to use this camera because the moment they leave this camera, they'll almost immediately be going to a start at the start-finish line. But they are booking. Man, they are booking. Are they not going to wait to the start-finish line? Or are they just rushing to try and make sure they're not running out of time here? Because I would think that they're going to start doubling up here. They're in the last corners. Oh! No, I think they're at full speed. Okay, so normally, historically, TORA will have the first start be at full speed, but no, I apologize. It looks like I'm wrong, and we have seen NWR Stewie, who is in second position, slip down and lose a significant amount of ground. They have already fallen to fifth, so I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. But I was wrong. We are at racing speed. They did not spend an entire lap under yellow. They went green at their designated restart zone, so I won't make that mistake again. I apologize. But Stewie's little slide off has really bunched up the field from fifth on back right now. Stewie sliding really wide there on the curb. You see one of the McLaren sliding wide farther back as well. And Stewie opening the gap on Moogsy has a good straight line speed advantage. But you can see how much he is hating the rear of that car out. That was the reason why he went off in the high speed kink there in the second to last corner. And it does look like he may be running a little bit too little downforce on the back end of the car. He's absolutely out-accelerating everyone else without problems, but I most definitely see some more handling-based issues in the future of this machine here. He's being challenged right now by Moogsy, one of the very, very few Aston Martins still running here In fact, the only Aston Martin in this lobby. Again, the Aston's got a significant nerf, but the rumor is that the Aston's strength was in acceleration, and as this is an acceleration-focused circuit, even though, oh, and that's where the no, is that an Audi or is that a McLaren? Well, someone's gone up there, farther up, and that would be Moogsy gets by Bilbo. I think that was Error 404 who has gone off, and you can really hear the cars bottoming out over that curb. Moogsy and Bilbo cannot seem to get away from each other, but the top driver, HYR Skyline, has absolutely gapped the field right now. Moogsy, side by side, neck and neck with FTC Sakura, LMP Bimbo. Sakura runs right behind. They're all trying to get down to single file. You don't want to go side by side through here if you can help it. But Sakura, around the outside, completes the overtake. So Moogsy may have the acceleration, but you can see that that change to the car's performance with less than a day and a half left has really hurt it right now. Yeah, it was as high as 6. Now you slip down to the 8th position through the high-speed blind right-hander. Meanwhile, farther up in the podium positions, while Skyline has absolutely gapped the field right now, Nano is holding on to second, and Richard is under intense pressure from behind by AR Error 404. Again, this is not like a traditional tour race that we would broadcast, where you have 2 different categories. Everyone here is in the exact same lobby. The good news is that you don't have to worry about higher or lower speed traffic constantly messing with you. The bad news with that, though, is that once the leader does catch traffic, he will have to navigate the traffic 100% on their own. They are not necessarily going to just roll over for him. And even if they try to roll over, it's still going to be a lot harder because he's not going to be that much faster mid-quarter in a straight compared to them. And Richard is off! Richard slides right in front of Error! Error blocks, avoids, makes a dive to the inside. Richard makes a little bit of contact side by side out of the final corner. It's going to be a drag race for a 3rd position. This is perfect for Nano. It looks like Error is going to back out of it and fall back in line behind Richard. But that second to last corner, that high-speed kick, is really showing a lot of drivers to have some troubles. Yeah, sure, maybe in qualifying you can just muster your way through it, grit your eyes, squint your teeth. I totally messed that up, but grit your eyes and squint your teeth and then muscle your way through it. But over a full 90-minute stint, it is really showing some problems, and that is Error, who is actually backing off, I believe. It looked like Error was backing off out of turn 3. Is there damage to the car? No damage as far as I can see, but it does look like he's backed off a little bit, and that has, in turn, backed up Stevie up into Bilbo. So we have a fight now for 5th and 6th. Bilbo lunges to the inside. Stevie, neck and neck. Stevie drops tires in the dirt. He still has tires in the dirt. So Bilbo gets by. Here comes Sakura. Sakura is going to accelerate. And as he gets to the top of the hill here at the highest point of the track, Stevie goes from 5th to now maybe slipping to 8th if Moogsy gets a good run here. Moogsy is really showing a lot of weakness from the rebuild. Here is Koenigsegg, the only Lexus in the field right now. Try to keep ZR Benito behind them. Through that blind left-hander there, 2 by 2. You can see them really, you hit that curve on the inside there, and you just get spat so wide, and you're in a horrible line in the next 2 corners. You can hear the car still bottoming out and slamming as they go over that curb. Oh, Benito nearly gets into Koenigsegg in the final corner, but now into the straightaway once again. Well, at this stage of the race, the entire field, minus our leader, excuse me, I apologize. Oh, I apologize, excuse me. But at this stage of the race, the entire field, with the exception of HYR Skyline, basically will all be on the front straight together. Now, those gaps will open up, but this is much, much tighter racing than what we are typically used to seeing in TORA. Even in the lower lobbies, it seems like here at least, there's a lot more balance when it comes to both driver performance and car performance at the moment. So LMP Nano holds on to second position right now. Running in the Bentley. I'm pretty sure that's the Bentley. No, that's the Aston, isn't it? Ooh, cool. No damage to the car. Obviously, he's running here. Excuse me. But Nano is definitely struggling. Oh, and that's an error. That was an error there by Richard and Error. Error got a little sideways and saw some power still sticking out. And while this Acura is absolutely... Oh, and Bilbo's gone off again. Bilbo slides off the circuit once more in that final chicane. He's recovered. It seems like now that we're past the first lap and the gaps are opened up a bit, the mistakes that drivers have in the final chicane, while they still happen, they're more damaging to time and distance and speed rather than just outright throwing away positions here. And now Sakura is going to go by. Sakura is on the very slow gradual charge uphill and is now moved up into the 5th position. Bilbo tried to cross over, but you can see a little bit of swirliness from the nose of that car on acceleration, and Sakura is already through. Bilbo now has Stevie coming up behind him, trying to make something happen here. The back of the field is starting to spread out. C1 Colossian 54 has lost the plot. Les Zeta and P1 Arkina are in a bit of a fight just between the two of them, but they're not really close to anyone else. AX4X Mikun has also lost the plot just a little bit. And then you get this big glut of cars in about 2nd to 15th, all pretty close to being on top of each other, but they're not so close to each other that if someone makes a mistake, you automatically are getting positions back. So as we watch Error and Richter continue their fight for the final podium position. Oh, big slide by the Acura. He didn't go into the dirt, but you can see he really bled off a lot of speed mid-corner. So Error really tight on corner exit. He'll have that great initial acceleration, but that seems to be about it. He does not seem to have the great straight line speed. He's got the draft off of Richter, but it's just not enough to really make use of it. Error, if he's going to get by Richard, he needs Richard to either make a mistake or he needs to run Richard down in some corners like that. Richard's made a small mistake in turn 1 that will let Error close in just a bit. Error has the acceleration advantage. Can he try and get to his inside or his outside coming onto the back straightaway? Richard drops the right rear into the dirt. Here comes Error on the outside. Richard blocks. Now Error goes to the inside and they dive into the final corner. They touch once, twice, maybe 3 times even, and it looks like Error's got his nose ahead, but he is on the outside the next corner, and he is going to have to back out of it. No, he's not. He's still there, but he's going to be on the outside of another corner. Side by side again into the downhill. Richard goes a little bit too early, drops the car deep into the dirt. Error does the same thing. Now it's a drag race up the hill. Who can get uphill first? Richard has the inside, and Error is going to hit him from behind. Here comes Sakura now, and Sakura tries to make the move, can't make it, falls back in line in 5th now. But one error from Richard let Error make a big move to try and go for a position. While Error could not hold it, it has now brought him into being way out of line to be right there. Richard drops tires in the dirt again, and here comes Error. He's got a great run into the 2nd to last corner. Oh, Error drops tires deep into the dirt. He looks to the outside. He's not going to make a move through the final corner this time, and someone has pitted. Who is that? That would be NWR Stevie. Was up there in the top 3 positions, but Stevie has gone ahead and made a stop early here. And here comes Error, dives to the inside of Richard, side by side in turn 1. See, they're keeping the entire field gathered up behind them. This is letting Skyline and Nano scoot away. Richard still has the position, but Error's going to get a great run out of turn 3. No, he's not. He slides the right rear to the dirt and is going to kill a lot of his momentum. But he is far enough ahead of Bilbo and Sakura. They don't have to worry about losing the position for now. So for right now, a very, very intense fight for 3rd is the highlight of the early parts of our first stint here in the C lobby. Les Zeta is also going ahead and making their first stop as well. Oh, Error gets into Richard from behind at the top of the hill, and this is going to kill Error. Error had such a bad run. Here comes LMP Bilbo now. And Bilbo on the outside in the BMW. Who's going to back out in this high-speed corner? Neither of them. They both mashed it through the floor. And it looks like Bilbo is going to pull out ahead. Yes, Bilbo has now moved up to the fourth. And while it was Richard who made a mistake 2 laps ago, there's a series of small errors that has now seen Error be the one slip to fifth. And I'm going to say error so many times that you will stop thinking it is a real word at this rate. So Bilbo now moves up into the 4th position, and now he sets his sights on Richard. LMP Skyline has led to the drop of the green flag and is shrinking away from the field. Here comes that McLaren once again diving to the Acura once again diving to the inside of the BMW. He'll get the position. Bilbo trying to do the crossover. But the Acura has a significant acceleration advantage. For those of us who have been following the oh, and Bilbo was all sorts of sideways. And now here comes Konaseg, here comes Sakura, and Bilbo is going to fall to 7th position from that one big slide. Going from maybe running down 3rd to now back into 7th. So while the back of the field is starting to fall off, this run from about 3rd all the way to about the 13th position, they're all packed up on top of each other. One mistake really is, we're back to it being one mistake will lose you multiple positions. It's funny because about 3-4 laps ago I was saying you can make a mistake and maybe not lose too many positions, and someone else has gone off. Was that LMP TVR? Yes, TVR dropped tires off, and now here comes the Benito of the Mercedes on the outside at the top of the hill. And the Mercedes is not going to be able to make it work. It tightens up a little bit too much on acceleration. So it does look like LMP TVR will be fine for the moment, but they will have lost tow from the cars ahead. I will say, looking at the stats, the LMP TVR's Cadillac was not looking very good when it came to the game-given stats. I thought that they were not going to be performing very well, but they are right in the top half of the field. Sideways over the kink. They're also followed by Benito going sideways, but now TVR has caught Bilbo and will be in a position to get a great run down the straightaway here. And Konaseg R is trying to make a run on Error 404 for the 4th position. So it looks like Richard is starting to open up the gap. And the Lexus is in 5th position, ready to try and keep Sakura behind. I think Error has got away from this field a bit, and now might be another fight for 3rd between Richard and Error, depending on how this goes. Konaseg all sorts of sideways, trying to keep the McLaren behind. Sakura can't make it stick. Acceleration on this back straightaway here. And now into one of the 2 downforce focused corners here at Kylami. Nose to tail. We're about 5th to 9th position right now. Bilbo really sideways there. Something a little interesting here. I'm going to ride on board with Benito for about a lap. We'll go silently on board for a lap so you can see what a flying lap is like here at Kylami when you're in the middle of fighting. I won't have any commentary for just 1 lap, but look at this. Sakura trying to make a move on Konaseg. Got Bilbo behind, got LMP TVR behind, got Benito behind, and then it's a small gap back to Hilfiger. Oh, sideways is Bilbo. TVR has nowhere to go. Benito is not going to make the run. It's a high-risk, low-reward move. And we'll be silent for 1 lap here around the circuit. my friends, was a full lap on board with ZR Benito, but it was not a clean lap. The AMG Mercedes seems to really be struggling in a straight line. Also had a big off that let them lose a position to Hilfiger. But while we were on board, if you looked farther up the road, you could see that this driver here, FTC Sakura, was really having some troubles. Went off twice. They're still in the top 7 for now, but we're starting to see a significant breakup in the grid at the moment. There we are. Welcome that back to how it went. So while our top 2 drivers have pulled away from the field, look at this fight that's just about to kick back in here. Richard is now falling behind Error, so after Error and Richard have both made some unforced errors, it is the Error on top. People are going to kill me for making that joke. So I apologize for not catching this overtake 4 position here, but it may not be over yet. The other thing, though, is this fight. 5th, 6th, right on top of each other. Koenigsegg with TVR right behind. TVR is dragging that Cadillac to places I did not think it would go. Looking at how the BOP was, I honestly felt that I couldn't tell you who the best car was going to be, but I thought the weakest car was going to be the Cadillac. LMP TVR is the only Cadillac in this lobby, and they are really aggressive. They are taking the fight to everyone with very little problem. TVR has a big run. They might be able to steal another position here at the end of the braking zone. He looks to the outside of Koenigsegg, might try and overtake with the crossover. No, he's actually fast enough. He's going to try and, on talent, make the overtake, stick on the outside. They'll be side by side to turn 3 as well. Coming onto the back straightaway, Koenigsegg is sideways over the inside curve. TVR is sideways on the outside curve, but the Cadillac is by, and the Cadillac now is up into the 5th position. Great drive by LMP TVR here. And now it's going to be clean air as Richard is losing time to Error at this point in the event. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and look at the tire life right now. Okay, so I can't make the player card give me tire life. I apologize for that. So we're going to have to do this ugly thing with telemetry here. 39% tire life on Richard's machine. What about Error, the driver he has been fighting with for most of the race? The Acura is at 37%. So it looks like the Bentley is burning through their rubber a little bit faster. LMP TVR, who's in the Cadillac, they've been very aggressive in the early part of this run. 40% tire life. So it seems like those 3 drivers all real even. The driver at the head of the field, we've not really talked about them very much. HYR Skyline, and AX4X Yukun has dropped out. 38% for Skyline, so Skyline has a great position on their tire life. Nano, it took them a little bit, but they've also pulled away from the field. Their tire life is looking into 37%. So it looks like everyone is pretty close to each other when it comes to tire life at this stage of the race. It is a shame for AX4X Mikun did not even make it to the first pit stop in today's event. So Richard might not have burned through the tires horribly, but he is burning through tires a little bit more than everyone behind him, and it is showing. You can see he is really struggling to keep the rear of that car under control, as knocked him out of the top 3, and now he might fall to 5th because LMP TVR looking like an absolute rocket today in that Cadillac. I am incredibly impressed on how that machine is looking right now. Richard all sorts of sideways out of the corners, and then a little bit behind is Koenigsegg with FTC Sakura. Those 2 are another pair that can't seem to get away from each other today. As you can see, because the track tightens up significantly in the acceleration off of the top of the hill, you can't really get a crossover run going there. It really reduces the number of places for an overtake. Oh my goodness, LMP TVR is right there behind the Bentley. They both clamber over the corners. TVR is sideways, but has kept his speed up in the process. Through the final corner, TVR gives Richard a little shove in the rear of the car. The Bentley slides the rear tires again, coming out of the final corner. Here he goes. Does TVR have enough draft to make it a lunge into turn one? He's looking. Richard is now defending the inside. Here comes TVR anyway. He dives out of it. He'll go to the outside now. Try to do the crossover out of one. Richard defends and keeps TVR behind him. Big slide. Richard cutting turn three a little bit aggressively, just trying to straighten these corners out as much as he can. But the more he tries to straighten some of these out, the more curves he's going to be bouncing over, and that's going to make his rear tires hurt even more. Oh my goodness, you can see the Bentley all sorts of sideways coming out of the higher speed corners. I don't think it's just the rear tires giving out, it's the front tires as well. He is most definitely struggling with significant tire wear at this point in the event. We're not even at the stage where he should be at 50% wear yet, but he is absolutely struggling right now. Look at that, tires off again. The only thing that might help Richard is that TVR is matching him in a lot of these mistakes in some of these corners, so TVR isn't really able to make the maximum use out of that Cadillac. Sakura has got by Koenigsegg there at the top of the hill. They actually made it side by side coming out of that tight acceleration zone. But we're looking at this because this might be the move. Here comes TVR. He'll be on the outside of the corner. He's trying to cross over. Oh, he tries. He gets the car on top of the curve. And it's a drag race. Does TVR back out? Yes, TVR backs out. He doesn't want to go side by side through here. Final corner once again. TVR is so much smoother right now as the tires are falling off. And here they come. Scarlett is making a pit from the back of the grid. But Richard on the outside, TVR on the inside. It's a drag race, and it looks like TVR will have this pretty convincingly. He has made the overtake stick. Richard looks to the inside. Will he try to dive? He does. Side by side. He hip checks TVR just a little bit. They're still side by side, but the hip check was enough to break TVR's momentum. Richard has the position, but he is absolutely the weaker of the two cars at this stage of the event. And as these two continue to fight, it is dragging Koenigsegg and FTC Sakura up into the fight behind them. If they spend another lap fight like this, we could see it go from a two-man dance to a menage a trois or even a quattro. And there goes the Bentley off again. And now he runs TVR off the circuit. TVR has gone off there. And TVR goes from 5th all the way down to 10th. A horrible scenario. TVR is going to be absolutely livid. I would not be surprised if that ends up getting submitted post-race. And you saw it here on the stream, folks. The most intense fight of the day goes bad. But this also means that Richard now will have to deal with Koenigsegg and FTC Sakura, a menage a trois for the 4th position. Koenigsegg wants no part of this. Koenigsegg is going to make his first stop of the day. So now Richard has to deal with Sakura. Sakura has also been a little bit mistake and error prone. The difference though is that Sakura's mistakes are big but rare. Richard's mistakes are small but incredibly common. Sakura just, wow! He didn't even try. Sakura just runs right into the back of Richard in turn 1. Gets the Bentley all sorts of sideways. So the top 3, Skyline, Nano, and Air, have all gotten away from the rest of the field. Right now, it does seem to me that the fight from 4th on back is very much active. Richard is like a cork putting back a high-pressure bottle. There are a lot of faster drivers tucked up behind him, but actually getting by him is really, really tough. And mind you, Richard was as high as 3rd, was actually fighting for 2nd very early on. As the tires are falling off, he just cannot keep these cars behind him as efficiently as he was before. Here comes Sakura on the outside. Sakura trying to make the outside work. Can't do it this time. All right, downhill run now, and your leader, HYR Skyline, making their first stop of the day. Keeping Sakura behind for now. Sakura looks to the outside, gonna try to do a crossover, coming out. Richard drops tires in the dirt. Sakura is not gonna make the run. Does not want to go side by side. Nano's gonna stay out for a few more laps, but Air's gonna stay out. Oh wow, and who was that? Was that Bilbo? I think Bilbo just went off into the dirt back there. So Nano will now take the lead of this event. And where's Skyline gonna be in relation to these two drivers? If Skyline is still ahead of these people, then Skyline will basically be home free. Richard is ahead of Skyline. Skyline is going to have to fall behind this fight. So for the first time today, we're going to see Skyline actually have to make overtakes on merit. Now, he will have better tires than the cars ahead, but he has been in clean air most of the day, and now that clean air is gone. So I think Skyline will probably feel fortunate that he's only behind 2 cars. I don't think Skyline realizes how bad Richard has been keeping the field tucked up behind him. The BMW runs right behind the McLaren of Sakura right now. There's also Bilbo just behind, ready to make a move if something happens. Doesn't look like right now the fight between Richard and Sakura is really holding up Skyline very much, as you see Sakura diving to the inside, side by side for a 3rd position. And now look at the Bentleys, all sorts of sideways right in front of Skyline, who we believe will be the leader once everyone ahead of him pits. Skyline, he's gonna send it. He wants to get by Richard as fast as possible. Richard drops into the dirt. He's gonna lose the position as Skyline, and now here comes Bilbo to the inside. Nano is gonna make his pit stop. Skyline now runs right behind Sakura. Bilbo has gotten by Richard, and Sakura is in the pits. It took Skyline only 1 lap. There was definitely some rear peaks clinching lap, but now Skyline will go back to the lead here. Only 1 lap out of the lead. So Bilbo now is in 2nd position with Richard behind. Richard dealing with horrible tire wear, still out there fighting 3rd right now, but that's mainly off the back of the fact that he has not made his stop yet. He's trying to keep Bilbo behind him at the moment. Oh, a bit of a hip check from the BMW. And now the Bentley hip checks Bilbo back, and Bilbo is sideways. He very nearly spins it out completely, and that's going to let ZR Benito get by him. Now we see Benito drop tires off into the dirt, and this lets Bilbo come back in. 5 of our top 6 drivers have not made their first stop of the race yet. One of them being Richard, who has really kept the field backed up behind him. And that has led to a lot of very exciting scenarios here. Games seem to think that Bilbo and Zenito swapped positions for a moment there. Obviously, that didn't happen. So that's what the game seemed to think happened there. These 3 are so tight on top of each other. Richard, Benito, Bilbo. Are any of these 3 going to make a pit stop this time by? Yes, it's going to be all 3 of them. No, Richard stays out actually, but maybe racing is in, as is XZR. What is Richard's strategy? He is obviously way slower than everyone else, but he is still on track. What is this man's strategy? Look at this, 60% tire life here. And yet, they're still out there on track in 2nd. And I look at the clock right now. How much time is left on the timer? About 52 minutes. We've gone through about 40 minutes of this race. If you want to split this race nice and evenly so you're not killing your tires, you'd pit at about 30 minutes in. Richard has gone about 10 minutes past that point. I don't know what this man's strategy is. Now, I will say this. He will be on better tires, almost guaranteed, to the end of the race, because his pit stops will be later. But he's going to be losing so much time. He's already lost a whole lot of time just trying to stay out. Now, the good news is he's got completely clean track. There's no one around him, no one fighting. You can go ahead and just focus on min-maxing some laps at the moment, as we see Les Zeta in the last position making their 2nd stop of the race. but I have no idea what Richard's strategy is. We know that once Richard pits, he is going to drop a long way back through the grid. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, a fight for 5th at the moment will probably turn to 4th once Richard pits. This is Koenigsegg and Sakura. These two have been on top of each other for a large portion of today's race. Up to the top of the hill, there is also NWR Stevie, who is behind. Mind you, Stevie made his first stop of the day earlier than anyone else on track. 37% tire life. I have to wonder if Stewie is going to just be running harder tires through this stint and try to let the race come to him. Richard finally in pit lane here. We're right on board with Stewie as we watch this fight ahead of him between Sakura and Koenigsegg. Oh, and Koenigsegg's off! He'll maintain position, but Sakura comes to the outside. Koenigsegg hits the inside wall, hits Sakura on the outside. Both of them are all sorts of side race. Out of the bottom corner is a drag race between Koenigsegg and Sakura. Now it looks like Sakura is a little bit faster in a straight line, but Koenigsegg will have the inside line as Joyce coming in turn 1. Neck and neck, and we're out for Stevie. Watching these two go into it. Sakura lunges into the final corner, leaves the inside open for Koenigsegg. Sakura has the position, has the acceleration. Sakura has the position. Koenigsegg runs right behind. Koenigsegg tries to straighten out and keeps it nice and straight through turn 3. Does not work out well. Here comes Stewie right behind Koenigsegg. He looks to the inside. Will he make the lunge? No, he does not. He backs out. He wants to live to fight another corner. Koenigsegg dropping tires in the dirt here and there. Sakura trying to open up the gap between Koenigsegg and himself. Stewie is right behind Koenigsegg. Very slow speed technical corners here that lead to a high speed acceleration zone uphill, and he brake blindly up to the top of the circuit. Koenigsegg, the rear of the car, seems to want to skid around on him. I wonder if Koenigsegg has a little bit too much rear brake bias. Every time I see him get on the brakes in the technical corner, the rear end seems to try to slide out. And now we see Stewie and Koenigsegg side by side into one of the fastest corners on track. Koenigsegg is going to keep it together. There's TVR. We've not talked about him for a bit. Koenigsegg still has the inside line, and now TVR wants to follow. Is there room? There's not room. But Stevie gets hit by TVR, loses a bunch of positions in the process. Well, not a bunch of positions, but a bunch of time in the process. I believe that was Benito who just went off circuit there. Yes, Benito has gone way off circuit. As Koenigsegg fights with Sakura, is there any damage to Benito's car? No damage. Fight for 4th and 5th, Koenigsegg and Sakura. So after making a stop, Richard, who had been the top 3, now all the way down in 10th position. He will have one unique advantage though. He is going to have fresher tires than everyone around him, and he's going to have it that way for a long time. So we'll keep an eye on him if we can. But this fight for 4th and 5th is not done. Koenigsegg got back by Sakura. These two just cannot seem to get away from each other. Sakura looking to the inside of Koenigsegg. Oh, wow. Okay, they did not make contact. I thought for sure they were going to make contact. Sakura has a better run out. Accelerating uphill, Sakura has the speed that will be on the outside line into this heavy braking zone. Trapped on the outside, can't do anything. Sakura will fall back in line behind Koenigsegg. No, he will not. They're still side by side. I thought he was going to back out, but no. They're still side by side. Now Sakura trapped on the outside in this high-speed corner again. But if he keeps it together, he does. Now Sakura can lunge to the inside, and Sakura will move up into the 4th. Koenigsegg can't make the overcut work. Through the high-speed kink, both cars bounce off of the curb real aggressively through there. But Sakura's got it. But Sakura has had it before, and then Koenigsegg gets back by a lap later. So while Skyline, Nano, and Air have really pulled away from the rest of the field, this fight from 4th on back is still keeping most of the field all like a big bottle, all shaken up behind him. And look who is in 6th position. Despite being run off the track earlier by Richard, it is LMP TVR. He is trying to recover. TVR has gotten by Stevie and Bilbo. Stevie, who is on, I believe, a significantly different tire strategy, has worked his way up into the 7th position. Richard is still 10th, but I've not seen him make any serious moves up the grid yet. Not to say it won't happen. He's at the back of this big train of cars. So from about 4th to 10th, 6 cars all running basically on top of each other. And as the car at the back of the field that has the best tires right now. Downhill into this high-speed left-hander again. Sakura slides a little wide, but keeps the car on the track. Here comes TVR. TVR is picking them up and laying them down like nothing. Oh, mistake there, but TVR is picking them up and laying them down. It seems like TVR stalls out once he gets to about 5th position, not because he gets slower, but just because it gets so much harder to make overtakes on cars higher up the grid. And mind you, Sakura has not streaked away from Koenigsegg. They're still around top of each other. If TVR can get by Koenigsegg, and that's what he's trying to do. TVR has the straight line speed. This is the big strength of the Cadillac, his straight line speed. He's got the car already ahead of Koenigsegg. Heavy into the braking zone now, into the first corner. TVR has it. Koenigsegg is going to try the crossover on corner exit, but I think TVR's got it. Oh, big twitch there in turn 2 into turn 3. TVR keeps it relatively, not quite straight. Drops the outside tires in the turn just a bit, but he still holds the position. He's now starting to pull the gap between himself and Koenigsegg. Now TVR closes on to Sakura. TVR has absolutely had razors out all day today. It has been a knife fight for this Cadillac, and it doesn't look like it's about to end yet. They are absolutely on it right now. Uphill. Right now, TVR just needs to make sure he hits all his marks right. His biggest strength in the Cadillac seems to be the run from the final corner to turn 1, the biggest straight on the circuit. That straight makes up like probably 20% of the overall track length. If TVR can be close enough to get a toe off of Sakura, it will put him in great position. We're about halfway through this stint right now. Also, keep an eye on that fight for 2nd and 3rd. Error is starting to close in on Nano. And while no one is going to catch Skyline is just too good. We could have a fight for our bottom 2 podium positions very shortly here. TVR did not have a great run in the final corner. It was a little bit too much of a straight line. But he will have the toe off of Sakura. The Sakura will have the better initial acceleration. TVR will have the better top end. But it doesn't look like TVR is close enough to do anything to Sakura this time by, but he is stretching the gap between himself and Koenigsegg right now. A little bit closer this time. TVR right behind the McLaren into the semi-blind right-hander. He's able to keep it on track for the most part. The nose of the car seems really, really swirly, so every time he tries to make a correction whenever the rear end steps out, it takes him a little bit longer, and he scrubs off a little more speed than a lot of the other cars here by the looks of it. But despite that, as long as TVR is keeping all 4 tires on the track, he seems to be doing good. Yes, he might be bleeding small amounts of speed here and there, but honestly, I don't think it's hurting him that bad. If TVR can get by Sakura and clear Sakura nice and quickly, I'm not saying it will happen, but TVR might have a chance at running down Nano for the 3rd position. And speaking of Nano, we are watching this fight for 2nd position as well. This is the fight for 4th and 5th right now, but my eyes are on the map in the fight between Nano and Error. They are right on top of each other on the front straightaway. But right now, TVR seems to be a little bit closer to making a potential move. Can he make this final corner stick without issue? Again, not quite as good as Sakura out of the final corner. But he's a lot closer and has the draft, catches the draft early, is going to be able to use the draft a lot longer. Does Sakura have a defense against TVR? TVR goes to the inside. Cadillac on McLaren action here. Going into turn 1, Sakura pinches TVR down. Can't keep him behind. He still has the nose ahead, though. and he will get back ahead into turn 3. All right, this back straightaway, not as long as the front straight, but it could still work out in TVR's favor. Does not look like he's close enough to make a dive into the right-hander here. Sideways, I really thought that Cadillac was going to go into the dirt there for a moment. Again, mind you, TVR went off circuit earlier trying to get by Richard. Lost a bunch of track time, a bunch of positions, and he has fought almost all those positions back. Come on, TVR. You got this, guy. Keep your head down and keep it going. I will give Sakura a big credit. Sakura is not really running a hyper defensive line, just hitting all their marks and letting TVR kind of bash their head against the wall here. But the straight line speed, the top end of that Cadillac, cannot be ignored. Sakura runs a little high side on the curbs, gets tires into the dirt, and brings TVR right behind him. Not quite nose to tail. All right, through the final corner. TVR needs a good run through here. Still not as good as Sakura, but I think that's just because the McLaren generally is a better handling car. But TVR is even closer this lap than where they were last time. Nose to tail. TVR goes to the inside again, trying to repeat the move, hoping that something changes this time. TVR has the nose ahead of Sakura. Sakura can't do anything to fight back. They're not completely done yet. They're still side by side. TVR inside, Sakura outside, but Sakura has a better handling car. TVR tries to straight line turn 3 and slides the car. A slide job. He puts the Cadillac right in front of the McLaren. Great job by TVR, but can he keep Sakura behind? Because TVR's biggest strength is straight line speed, and all these corners aren't really going to help. Sakura has a better handling car through these corners. Can Sakura fight back? Big twist, and now TVR drops tires into the dirt. Sakura is tucked up behind TVR, trying to look for a spot to get through. This run uphill is a little bit more acceleration focused and top speed focused, but TVR was just good enough to keep Sakura from doing anything. Not really advisable to make big dives at the top of the hill. And Sakura seems to be holding their position right now. I think this fight is just about over. So now we turn our focus to this fight for a second. LMP Nano has spent a long portion of today's race in second, completely away from anyone else. But this is starting to change. AR Air 404, who had a big, long fight with AWR Richard earlier today, is now starting to make something happen. And TVR has just now made a stop. TVR is pinning after getting up to the 4th position. What is this strategy? There's still a long chunk of the race left. In fact, as we look at the time right now, we still have about 38 minutes left. TVR is going to try and undercut everyone else. You can go ahead and do it for it, but you're going to have to pay the pipe for TVR. Your tires are going to be worse than just about everyone else at the end of this race. One thing that might work out for TVR, though, if he comes out and spends a lot of time in clean air, he might be able to get some good laps going. So we'll keep an eye on how TVR makes this stick. So Air 404 has caught Nano at the moment. As we look at the back of Nano's machine, looking at Air 404 behind. Mind you, these two are on slightly different pit stop strategies. Nano pitted 1 lap later than Air, so Air is honestly on a bad, slightly worse side when it comes to tire life than Nano in this middle stint of the race. And we should expect these two to start coming in at almost any time. So here, real quickly, TVR, he is second to last right now, but he's got most of the clean air ahead at the moment. Excuse me. Game, please, out of the black screen. Oh, and that's FTC Sakura! No, FTC Sakura, who was on route for a top 5 finish, has just dropped out of the race. NWR Stevie is going to make their second stop of the event. So a very early first stop, a slightly early second stop. Stevie trying to go for an undercut as well, as Nano continues to keep Error tucked up behind them. Error is most definitely closing, but we know from the ISC series that the Acura shoots through its tires a little bit faster than most of the other cars here. While TVR making a stop a lap earlier than Stevie has kept him ahead of Stevie for the moment. Also, mind you, our leader, H-Wire Skyline, is about to put Zeta a lap down. I think Zeta may have had an accident in the early laps of the race, which is what forced him to make an early stop. Zeta is just in a horrible looking position right now, but will still be ahead of AXRX, Mikun, and Sakura, as neither of those two drivers were able to finish today's race. Alright, Error looking on the outside, now trying to cross over at the top of the hill, but he's not really close enough to make anything of it. Watch this fight for a second here. Oh boy, that's a nice shot. Wasn't trying to get this shot, but this is a nice shot. You see maybe Racing trying to keep a bunch of drivers behind. But anyways, watch this fight for a second as it dives into turn 1 here. Nothing can really be done there, it seems. I just really like these static camera angles. It's just hard to make them work. All right, here comes the fight for second. Nano on the inside, and that is Error on the outside here. Side by side for position. Nano outside, Error inside. The fight for second is very much alive and well. Error, who earlier in the race wasn't even in the podium position, has now moved up into second place. Nano is going to try and fight back. Skyline is way faster than everyone else on track, I think. But Nano does look like he has the speed to maybe hold on to third. The big question is going to be Nano versus TVR. Nano is going to have better tire life to the end of this race, but TVR has been absolutely booking it in the middle of traffic. You can still hit those same kind of lap times in clean air. There is a chance that TVR will catch Nano once Nano makes his pit stop, his final pit stop. Again, mind you, everyone is required to make 2 stops in every stint in today's race. The only drivers that have done that thus far are TVR, Stevie, and Zeta. Though Zeta, we're expecting, may have to make a 3rd stop. I believe Zeta may have had an accident early on in the event. But Error really didn't spend a whole lot of time fighting Nano. He stalked him for about 3-4 laps, but once a move opened up, Error went for it, and Nano, while he kept the fight going for about 1/3 of a lap, just could not keep the Acura behind. And again, we've talked about this so many times in ISC. I'm going to talk about it again here today. That one of the biggest, if not the biggest strength of the Acura has been its great acceleration and the fact that it can turn and change lanes on acceleration. We see all the time when Valkyrie in the ISC series, who drives the Acura there, he'll be tucked up behind somebody. You'd think he can't go anywhere, but then he swaps lines to, and sometimes a worse line than the guys ahead of him. But the Acura has such a great acceleration, it doesn't matter. He's able to get alongside of them coming out of the acceleration zone. And even if he doesn't have the top end speed on a lot of the shorter corners, or shorter straightaways, he'll still be there side by side and can pit and can annoy the other drivers. Yes, you need a good driver to make the Acura perform like that. But when you have a good driver in the Acura, that ability to change lanes and maintain all of your acceleration is an absolutely killer feature of the Acura, and I do believe that Error is one of those drivers who are able to maximize the performance of the Acura. Caffeine, nice. Nano has not lost Error yet, but it does look like gap is gradually growing, and I do think Error has a car That setup to slightly more top end than Nano's is. But again, a little bit less top end means that Nano is probably running, not definitely, but probably running a higher downforce setup. Nano also might be running a setup that is more corner focused and straight line speed focused. Potentially, Nano can also end up with a slight advantage when it comes to tire life as well by running a strategy like that. We know that Nano stayed out an extra lap longer than both Skyline and Error, but it does look like that change to maybe preserve tire life, maybe focus on corners, might not be helping Nano up very much. While he's run in second position pretty much since about lap 3 or 4, he has now lost it and does seem to be gradually losing the gap between himself and Error. As long as Error doesn't make any of his namesakes, he should be able to open the gap up. Alright, so no one outside of TVR and Stevie has really made their second stop yet. So those two are going for a massive undercut here, and I really don't know how their tires are going to look. The big thing, though, is that TVR is still in clean air, as is Stevie. So as long as those two are in clean air, that should help them a little bit. Now TVR is going to close in on C1 Kalashnikov 54. I keep wanting to say Kalashnikov. Kalashnikov 54. But he's not caught him yet. Alright, Error made a bit of a namesake there. And now this has let Nano close in. Does Nano have a chance to maybe get back by the Acura? I don't see anything there to suggest that's going to happen this time, but they are right on top of each other. And that is Koenigsegg R, who is now going to make his, what we anticipate will be the final stop of the day. So right now, LMP Bilbao runs in 4th. Richard has recovered to 5th. Mind you, Richard has a tire advantage right now. He lost a lot of time staying out as long as he did in the first stint, but he's got a tire advantage at this stage of the event. Might he be able to snag victory from the jaws of defeat? I don't think so. I don't think a podium is in the works for Richard, but maybe with this tire life advantage, he might be able to recover to a 4th or 5th final finishing position. All right, mind you, between TVR and Koenigsegg, Koenigsegg is way behind TVR. So I think TVR is going to be in a good position to at least come out in 4th. My main interest is going to be, where is Nano going to end up? Because Nano is most definitely was losing ground, not losing as much ground now. It seems like with Error ahead, Nano is kind of staying in the Acura's tire tracks and using the draft to artificially pull him along a little bit. But he is losing small amounts of time to Error with every lap. As long as Error doesn't make any big mistakes like he just did there, Nano will eventually lose the draft off of the Acura, and then will fall back to the earlier, slower pace that he had. All right, here's a bit of a fight that we've not put a whole lot of focus on. We've seen this fight every now and again in the periphery, but there's been more fights farther up that's just had my attention. But Mugsy, Arcana, Maybe Racing, and ZR Benito, who just went off in the dirt farther back. These four have been relatively close to each other most of the day today. Maybe was a little bit outside of the top 10 earlier, but has recovered into 9th at the moment. Will likely fall back out of the top 10, though, once final pit stops to cycle through. Scarlett, like I said, is making their second and final pit stop of the day. You don't want to make your final stop too late, because then you're not really going to get a good performance out of the tires here. Arkina all sorts of sideways there in the Acura. The only other Acura in today's event. We have about 27 minutes left on the clock, according to my clock at least. Hilfiger, who was fighting a little bit about this high up in the field earlier, but then made some mistakes, just couldn't really keep it together. He is currently in 6th position, focusing forward on AWR Richard. Again, the real question I have is, what is Richard's strategy? He went super far along in the first set of tires, and now here comes Error. Error is going to be a first of our podium drivers to make a pit stop. So Error is going to end up potentially in the middle of other cars here. Okay, well, here's some interesting news as Richard goes deep in the dirt and slides, but Hilfiger is going to pit now, and Moogsy is going to join him in the pits. But where's Error going to end up in relation to the field? Is Error going to have to spend a lot of time fighting back through cars on older tires again? Because if so, that could hurt Error's chance at bringing home a second, because especially if it turns out that Nano is able to stay out long enough that when he pits, he doesn't really have to fight anyone, that could really, really hurt him. And again, the other question is going to be LMP TVR. TVR has been cranking a bunch of laps out in completely clean air. I can't really, because we're using time and not lap count, I have no way to see what everyone's actual gaps are on track to each other. Can't see it in feet, can't see it in time. So I apologize for that. That's why I have the map up so you can kind of guesstimate. TVR in 11th right now. We know that Error is going to be very much clear of TVR. I'm curious to see where LMP Nano, Error, and TVR are all going to end up relative to each other. Because it looked like over the most of the second stint, Nano we knew was slower than Error. But is Nano slow enough that TVR can run down the final laps of this race? Arcana and maybe Racing with ZR Benito, all these three are on top of each other right now. The leader is not pitted yet. The leader had a one-lap advantage over everyone else in the first stint. Looks like they're going to stretch it to a two-lap tire advantage in the final stint. I think the same is going to go for Nano. This is really the big pack of cars that Skyline and Nano have to worry about. If these drivers start peeling off one at a time and start pitting, it may be a little easier for them. All right, X3R is now pitting farther back there, as is C1 Kalashnin 54. Maybe runs right behind Arkina at the moment. Sierra Benito a little bit farther back. ZR trying to make something happen to maybe can't really make it stick. Maybe, and we believe Scored Buffalo is the driver they'll be sharing that car with. Those drivers are both big fans of the BMW platform in GT3, whether it's M6 or M8. ZR Benito and the Mercedes on the outside, a little bit sideways though. Can't keep us alongside with Baby through that higher speed right-hand corner. Mind you, that is Error, so this could be bad news for Error. He has caught the back of this field, so he is going to start losing time. Skyline, our race leader, is now in the pits. But I think Skyline is far enough ahead that he will not have to worry about traffic. The real question is going to be Nano and this man here, Error. This TVR is still riding in comparatively clean air. Mind you, TVR is right behind Error on track, but it is a significant gap on the circuit right now. The TVR in clean air, Error now trapped behind three other cars who are all fighting amongst each other for a position. How aggressively is Error going to go for moves? Oh, well, that's going to help the Mercedes. ZR Benito bonches the corner. So that's one less car that Error has to worry about as he stays tucked up behind Maybe Racing, and Arkina is going to be pitting this lap. But Maybe is going to stay out. All right, where is Nano going to be in relation? There's Nano coming out of the pits right now. Nano accelerating out. Maybe on the front straightaway, Error right behind him, but Nano right now has a track position over Error. So the undercut in the second stint did not work for Error, and Error is now back into what should be overall third position. This also would mean bad news for TVR, because this means TVR is not close enough to really do anything to these drivers. Error is still tucked up behind Maybe Racing, and Maybe is not as fast as Nano, so as this continues, this will help Nano maybe recover back to coming home to a second place finish instead of a third. So while Error has been faster, the tires, the tire strategy has not worked out in his favor. He made the undercut and ended up falling right in the middle a pack of fighting cars, more like right behind a pack of fighting cars. Nano, on the other hand, is in completely clean air. Now Air looks to the inside of maybe drag racing down the hill. How aggressively is maybe hold on to it? Air is all sorts of sideways, and maybe he's gonna be able to hold it because Air touched the inside dirt just a little bit. Got all sorts of skyways. Okay, Bilbo, who is in second right now, is gonna make his second stop, so he's gonna fall behind this group of fine cars, and finally, maybe he's gonna come into the pits. So Air will finally be in clean air, but he's got tires that are 2 laps worse off than Nano. Now he is within about 300 feet of Nano, but he made this overtake once before, but he's gonna have to fight to make it all over again. The TVR, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. I calculate the TVR is about 9.5 seconds behind Air right now. Now, Air and Nano will likely kill each other's time just a little bit when they fight, but I don't think TVR is close enough to make anything of it. That runoff circuit that TVR had while fighting with Richard is probably going to cost him a potential podium finish. And speaking of Richard, Richard is currently in second position, going farther on his tires than anyone else. We have about 20 minutes left on the clock, as far as I can tell. I could be wrong. The field did get rolling at almost exactly 5 minutes on the clock, so if we don't stop right away, then I'm going to assume we have another 5 minutes left, but instead of 0 minutes, obviously. So I could be slightly off. I may have misunderstood what the officials told me, and if that ends up being the case, I'm sorry. I screwed up on the initial start of the race. I didn't really catch it. I may end up screwing up on the end here. But anyways, Richard trying to stretch these tires out a little longer than anyone else. Good news for Richard is that he basically paid the piper, spent a whole lot of time dealing with worn out tires early in the event. So he's going to be on relatively fresh rubber compared to everyone else for the entirety of the second stint, the entirety of the final stint. But did he give up too much time in the first stint in the process? ZR Benito is making another pit stop. So Benito may have had damage somewhere that has dropped him, and that's really going to hurt him because Benito was honestly looking to maybe take home a 10th. But this is going to drop him near the back of the grid. So Zeta is a lap down and is the only car a lap down. I don't think Benito will go a lap down. I think he has enough of a gap over Skyline that he shouldn't have to worry too much about that happening. All right, this fight for third on track will turn into second once Richard inevitably makes his second stop. Again, everyone is required, everyone is mandated to make a minimum of 2 stops in all the stints in today's event. Running uphill is Nano. Air just a few feet behind. About 200 feet at the worst, about 150 at the closest. And Nano is losing ground to Air, but Nano has a tire advantage and track advantage. Air just seems to be faster right now. These two are actually closing in on Richard at a pretty respectable clip. Oh, and Nano is going to see Air slide way off there. Nano is slower, but Richard seems to make mistakes every now and again, and that might be all it takes for Nano to hold on to this third position. That and the fact that he has better tires. And you can see Richard on track. These two are running second place down with speed. But again, Richard is required to make a second stop in this event. LMP Nano. One of the few drivers still in the Aston Martin. A big controversy over this car. Got a nerf after qualifying was done. Oh, an error! Slides into the dirt. He'll keep the car straight, but that's going to kill his time. That might be enough. I think Nano will be able to hold on to second just because of Error's mistake there. But as I was saying, the Aston Martin has absolutely been nerfed. A significant decrease to the tire width on the front, along with extra weight added in the rims to really hurt the Aston's handling ability. Now we know the Aston has good acceleration. The handling ability has been compromised, but still, LMP Nano is making use of it, making good use of the car despite this last-minute nerfs. And AWR Richard, well, AW Richard is finally going to make their final stop. So where is Richard going to end up in relation to LMP Bilbo? Bilbo made a stop way earlier, but his tires are going to be a little bit cooked. So Bilbo will probably be ahead of Richard, but Richard will be on better tires and should be in position to absolutely put some flyer banger laps down. TVR has not really pulled away from Bilbo as much as we thought, and there you see Richard coming on track behind Bilbo. He'll get better rubber, but he has lost a lot of time. The big thing, though, is that Sakura, who's one of the people that Richard had to deal with, has dropped out of the event, and with Sakura dropping out, Richard might still be able to recover with a top 7. He is 7th right now, and will be looking farther up to Hilfiger. Again, Hilfiger is going to have some worn tires, not cooked. They're not going to be absolutely destroyed, but his tires will be worn here in these final few minutes. Boy, and this has just been stint 1, and mind you, I still am going to be covering 5 more stints after this. After stint 1, I'll take a small break and cover stint 2. After that, another small break. I'll be covering stint 3. After stint 3, a small break, covering stint 4. I will not be covering stint 5. I'll be taking a break in stint 5. If someone else ends up covering stint 5, I will, and I see the information, I will let you guys know. And then stint 6, I will be covering to the end of the race, and hoping that my voice won't be completely fucking cooked. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse there. I'm hoping my voice won't be completely cooked at the end of the final 2 stints that I broadcast today. So credit where credit is due. TVR is not too far away from 2nd and 3rd. There's just not enough time, I think, for him to run the 2 cars ahead down. Mind you, his tires are the most worn of everyone on track right now. He made a big undercut for his final pit stop, trying to run laps in clean air, and it has absolutely paid dividends. After making that stop, he has been in pretty much clean air since that point. Not fighting with anyone, but his tires are going to be falling off, and the 2 drivers behind him, Bilbo and Hilfiger, while Bilbo is relatively close, Figure is a lot farther out, but Bilbo will have better tires and likely could run TVR down these final laps here. I don't think TVR really has any way to try and focus forward and fight forward to Error or Nano. Nano has pretty much stabilized in 2nd, as Error has had a few self-inflicted errors in this final stint. Still, looks like he'll be able to bring this Acura to a podium position. I think 2nd is pretty much out of contention for him. And then the driver we've really not talked very much about today, Skyline, started on pole, has absolutely blitzed the entire field all day today. No one has been able to keep up with him since the start of the green flag, and this will be a great start for him. He's really only had about a lap where he's had to deal with traffic. Other than that, it has been completely clean for him. Well, he did have to get around LES Zeta on merit, but other than that, it has been pretty much clean and green for Skyline all day today. HYR putting on a great run here in the first stint here in TORA C lobby for our 9 hours of Kylami. Most of our battles seem to have solidified. Everyone kind of knows where they are right now. This is the closest we have to an active battle. Stevie, Baby Racing, X3R, and Arkina all pretty much on top of each other right now. Benito would have been in this fight a little bit higher up in this fight, but Benito must have had some sort of accident or maybe a miscalculation on his fuel when they filled him back up. but Benito has now been dropped back to the 16th position, pretty much out of this. C1 flashing 54, while being probably the slowest driver all day today. It looks like he'll come home 15th off the back of just not really making any big mistakes. Here comes X3R, and he gets turned from behind by Arkina. There's enough grip in these tires that he's able to keep the car straight, but will lose time to maybe in the process. Oh wow, that BMW of maybe really slid off circuit there. X3R almost followed him off circuit as well. Maybe is struggling, the BMW, as this stint comes to a close. At the bottom of the hill, now accelerating back upward. Big sideways moment back there by Arkina. It's very similar to what we see in ISC. It seems like it's a tale of two different Acuras. Arkina has just not been able to extract maximum pace from the Acura. He does have the same advantage of great acceleration, to be able to manipulate the acceleration any direction he wants, but just does not seem to be able to pull great lap time out of the Acura despite that. Meanwhile, Error has been able to pull some incredible lap time out of the Acura today. So very similar to what we see. Some drivers are able to min-max that Acura for great lap time. Some drivers are able to fight well with the Acura, but can't really make any good times with it. Maybe is really struggling with the BMW, but seems to be just fast enough that X3R can't really do anything to him. But maybe is pretty much lost touch with NWR Stevie farther up the road right now. McLaren makes a big dive into turn one, ends up sliding wide, and Arkina tries to get to the inside, but the rear end gives up on him. First through fifth all seems to have stabilized. There is a possibility that AWR Richard will catch Hilfiger here in these final few minutes. Richard, who was at a big tire disadvantage earlier in the event, is absolutely kicking up through the field, trying to make something happen. According to my timer, we have less than 10 minutes left on the clock. Richard most definitely seems to be closing on Hilfiger, but with less than 10 minutes left, you do the math, the lap around here is a little bit less than 2 minutes. Well, I think they have 4 laps. Now again, I could be wrong. They might be able to squeeze in another 5 minutes if I misunderstood when the timer starts. But if we only have about 4 laps or less left, I don't know if Richard will be able to get by Hilfiger. Catching him, I think, might happen, but getting by him is going to be a lot harder here. Real quickly, I want to look at this fight here. 11th on back. Scarlatti, who was in some instance earlier, seems to be closing in on Arkina and X3R. But all these drivers seem to be in a position where they've kind of burned out the best of their cars. And while they're all on top of each other, I don't feel like any of them really have anything left in the tank to make moves happen. looking at about 6.5 minutes left, and Arkina has gotten to the inside of its 3-yard here. But can't really hold it alongside, going into a high-speed right-hander. 3-yard slides a little wide, but Arkina, does he have the run? He looks to the outside, trying to hope that 3-yard slides out. Slides here, does slide out, but not enough to really make anything of it. And Les Zeta is making a 4th different stop today. So a bad day going worse for Zeta. And looking at the replay cameras, now you can hear the Porsche of Scarlatti coming up behind. It's 3-yard, drafts into the dirt. Here comes Arkina to the inside. It's not even a top 10 position, but they are fighting like it is. Arkina streaks by, and now Scarlatti gets by X 3-yard. Now Scarlatti looks to the outside. X 3-yard with a big dive. He's going to try and make 2 overtakes in 1/4. Makes it happen. But yes, he's going to keep it. Incredible drive. Scarlatti drops 2 tires in the dirt, blocks Arkina behind. Arkina doesn't really have a good rotation in the final corner. So check this out. LMP Bilbo has gotten back by TVR as TVR's tires are absolutely cooked. So Bilbo might be able to steal a 4th out of this, and TVR has Hilfiger behind him now. So TVR, despite being one of the fastest drivers on track in a car that a lot of us, or at least I shouldn't say a lot of us, I might be the only one who thought the Cadillac was bad, but in a car that I thought was absolutely awful, seems to be rebounding. There seems to be some other issue going on here. Has someone else dropped out? And that's Scarlatti! No! Scarlatti, who is in position, finally make move, has now dropped out of the event in the closing minutes. But TVR, with the burnt-out tires, is now hemorrhaged a position, and Bilbo might lose a position to Hilfiger in the last few moments here. My clock says 4 minutes left. So Hilfiger has now gotten by TVR, as you saw there. So burnt out tires absolutely ruining his time. The other driver who's really struggling with burnt out tires, I believe, although part of it is also self-inflicted error, is this man here, AR4 Error 404, was in second for a moment, but has not been able to push the tires on the Acura far enough. Even though he tried undercutting, the undercut in the second stint did not work, and while he tried closing back in on Nano, had some mistakes, burnt up all the rubber. It looks like Nano will come home in second, while Error will be third. Bilbo, of all drivers, I didn't think he was going to get fourth. That was going to be either TVR or Sakura. But Sakura dropped out of it, and now Bilbo has rebounded. Now here's something else. Richard is actually going to have way better tires than TVR, and TVR, as he continues to hemorrhage time, we could see an inverse of what we saw earlier. At the end of the first stint, Richard had the worst tires, TVR had better tires, was caught behind them, went off. We could see a repeat of that here in these closing minutes. Yeah, Richard has caught TVR. Oh my goodness, you can see how badly that Cadillac is struggling. That undercut definitely gave TVR a lot of track position, but now he is losing all of it here. My clock says there's less than a minute left, and TVR has now lost a position to Koenigsegg as well. I'll look real quickly at his tires. Oh my goodness, in the 67s. But at the head of the field, has not been challenged at all day today. Skyline has streaked away. My clock says 35 seconds left. Nano is in second. Error third. Bilbo in fourth. Ilfigure fifth. Richard, despite going stupid long on the tires earlier, seems to have recovered to sixth. Koenigsegg seventh. LMP TVR eighth. Mugsy ninth. NWR Stevie 10th. With maybe racing 11th. Xtreme Art 12th. P1 Arkina 13th. CL1 Clash in 54 14th. ZR Benito 15th. Les Zeta about a lap and a half down 16th. And then Scarlatti, Sakura, and Mikun in that order were not able to finish today's event. My clock is gone, and there it is. Skyline is your stint victor, followed by LMP Nano, and then Error 404. Got a feel for LMP TVR. He went for a crazy gamble on the tires. It gave him a lot of track position, but the rubber could not hold up. And Richard, on the other hand, by going super long, the first stint was actually able to recover and make a few overtakes and recovered to sixth. And that fight for second between Nano and Error was absolutely fantastic to watch happen. I'm gonna wait just a little bit before I send invites to our top 3 drivers here. Alright, here I finally found something close to what I was looking for. HYR Skyline. I just wanted to see if I'm going to be able to invite our top 3 finishers without screwing them over going into the next stint. And the problem is I can't find Skyline's name here, which is more than a little bit frustrating. See, oh, there we are. Skyline is going to be in sharing the car with Flux Nova, Bookie, and RZR Rostuds, and that is the HYR Trash Panda Racing. So, okay. I don't have any way to see what stint they're in, which is the frustrating part. Okay, anyways, I'm going to send out invites to our top 3 finishers here. All right. There's no real rush on their part. But again, our podium finishers, Skyline, Nano, and Air 404. Bilbo come him 4th. Hilfiger 5th. AWR Richard 6th. Koenigsegg in 7th. LMP TVR 8th. Moogsy 23 and 9th. NWR CV 10th. And, oh, okay, well, we got someone coming into the party early on. Hello, Air. This is just post-stint interviews. If you are interested, go ahead. You should be able to include your audio, and feel free to tell us about what that stint was like for you. Oh, I got a message. I don't speak it very well. All right. Well, I will say, Era, you did absolutely fantastic out there. One second. Let me in the race. Okay. Fair enough. You don't have to stay here. You can leave if you need to. And I will turn the mic. Okay, understood. I can wait. No problem. No rush. All right, it looks like drivers are now starting to drop out, probably in preparation for the next run here. Okay, we're seeing a little bit of movement. So Skyline is back underway. Probably moving to the next 1 mile marker. And then once it's at the mile marker, TORA will go ahead and double check their distances. Is staying by right now to see if Skyline or Nano will be able to talk with us a little later. I'm also trying to not talk a whole lot. Want to rest my voice a little bit between stints because I'm already feeling a little bit of that burr in the vocal cords after a very, very intense first stint. I have been broadcasting for about 2 months, basically almost immediately after broadcasting came back into the game. But I've been doing it in ISC for races that are about 2 hours long, and usually they've not had quite as much excitement as what we've had today. Again, I'm going to be broadcasting for about 10 hours, so I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a rest here. So I'm not really talking a whole lot. For those of us who have just joined us now, we are at the end of Stint 1, and all the final distances are being officially recorded. HYR Skyline started on the pole and led every lap but one, went out to a dominant victory here in the first stint in the C lobby. LMP Nano followed suit after about 4 laps, got out into second, but Nano did lose a good chunk of time in the second stint. It let AR Error 404 catch up, but after pit stops, Nano ended up with a better tires, better everything, and was able to get the position back and just never looked back. Error 404 fought for third position for a long period of time, eventually streaked away from most of the field, was able to catch up to Nano at the end of Stint 2, got by him in fact, but because he was burning up the tires in the Acura about a lap to 2 laps faster than Nano, he made his first pit stops 2 laps earlier than Nano, got caught in traffic for about 2 laps, because that was trapped behind Nano, and once he finally did clear the traffic, Air made a few self-inflicted namesakes, lost some ground, could not close back in on Nano. The fight for everyone else goes very, very intense. From 4th on back, we saw Richard having a long fight. He went long on the first stint, then short on the final 2 stints. TBR went normal on Stint 1, short on Stint 2, long on Stint 3, and that cost him a lot of time. But in the end, it was Bilbo who came home in that final position. So we see drivers now trying to run around and get their final things going. So I'm going to go ahead and try saying one more invite to Skyline and Nano here. Hello. I hear you, Error. Okay, yes, I hear you. Error, real quick. In the Xbox party, does it have an option to say include my audio? Yes, please turn it on.
Okay. I checked the option.
All right, sweet. You are live on the Twitch broadcast. Error, you had a incredibly intense race and you came home in the podium positions. What do you have to say about your run today?
First of all, I'm very happy for this race because the people were very clean. We had a few collisions, but all good. The first battle was super tense. I don't know if you can check that, but I was at the limit. I wasn't sure about what will happen, but fortunately it went well, and I'm glad for that.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. One more question. Who is driving the car in Stint 2?
Sorry.
Yes, Nano, just wait 1 second. Error, who is driving the car in Stint 2?
I don't got it.
Okay. Anyways, thank you, Error, for... All right, thank you, Error, for jumping in and talking with us.
Thank you. See you.
All right. Yeah, bye. All right, Nano, real quick, are you able to include your audio real quickly here? Okay, you had a great run, came home second. What do you have to say about your very intense day today?
In fact, it was a pretty good stint. In some part of the race, I lost grip, but everything was fine. Just a great battle with Error 404. It was a very good battle, but I managed to do another cut, and it was great. I just came out of the second pit in front of him, and I managed to stay in front of him. So it was a really good race.
All right, fantastic job. One more question. Who is driving your car in Stint 2?
I think it's Eclectic. A French fellow of us, and it would be very nice to see him capitalize on what I've done.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate.
Welcome.
We look forward to seeing what the rest of your team can do. All right, one more driver to talk to, and then we'll close the Stint 1 broadcast and start the Stint 2 broadcast. I'm going to talk to HYR Skyline. Skyline, if you can, go ahead and check the include my audio box in the Xbox party.
Yeah. Hello.
Yep, hello. All right, Skyline. You seem to have a really, really calm day. You led every lap in that stint except one. What do you have to say about your run out there?
I thought it was pretty good. I had a little mistake towards the end, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good race. I was a little road coming out of the first pit stop behind a few people. But yeah.
All right, big advantage in Stint 1. Who is your teammate in Stint 2 so we can analyze if they're going to be able to capitalize on it?
I think it's Buki.
HYR Bookie. All right, sweet.
Yeah.
We'll be keeping an eye on them. Great job on your Stint 1 win, mate. We look forward to seeing what you and the rest of the team can do for the rest of today's event.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
All right, and that is going to be interviews from our top 3 podium finishers from Stint 1. I'm going to end this broadcast, and then in about 60 seconds, so about a 1-minute layover, and then I will start the Stint 2 broadcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining and watching us here. Do not go away. We will be right back in about a minute to cover Stint 2 here for the C Lobby at the 9 Hours of Kylami hosted by TORA. Thank you.